Are you looking for the best 2024 NFL Week 12 DFS advice around? Then get ready for the live Week 12 IDP Plus DFS podcast. It is Week 12. It is Buymageddon 1, the prequel, and it's time for DFS. We got some money. It's Thanksgiving week. We got to make some money. I'm Joel Worth. That's my buddy Jameson Hutchinson. Jameson, how you doing today?
Doing good. Feeling, we talked before the show went on, feeling a little too confident today that things are looking a little too good to be true. So we're going to get through it. I'm excited. There's a lot to like here. Like you said, big bye week. Falcons, Bills, Bengals, Saints, Jets, and the Jaguars are all on bye. Here in 2 weeks, week 14. Normally the playoff time, that's going to be another huge bye week. So just look ahead there. But we got 7 games in the early window, only 3 in the late. And then we got the night game on FanDuel, which ends up being another good one. I feel like we have to put that into some of our lineups, but I'm excited. I'm ready to get into it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're new to DFS, like the sites, they do this. Like around Thanksgiving, they said they loosen up their pricing, and pricing is really loose this week. You can do some really fun stuff with your lineup. So it's going to be like it's not a great week of games. We got a lot of games with big lines, not a lot of great games. Like the best game of the week probably is Baltimore and the Chargers in the Monday night slot. So that's off slate. But I think DFS is going to be fun this week. We got a lot of fun stuff to talk about. Got some people joining us in the chat. We got the IDP Plus site. We got Gary saying happy holidays. Appreciate that. Our buddy JJ is here. Good morning to you. Thanks for checking out the show as always. We will hit your questions in just a second, but let's get to our first game. It's the Vikings and the Bears. Minnesota, their third straight road game goes to Chicago. 3.5-point favorites. 39.5 is the total. So an implied total of 21.5 for the Vikings and 18 for the Bears. I think there's some interesting stuff in this game, some kind of pay down stuff that I like on the Bears side. Where are you going, Jameson?
Yeah, it seems like Romo Dunze. I was very excited to play him at the beginning of the week. Seems like he's going to get a little bit of ownership. I'm not too scared. If you're playing over on FanDuel, I mean, he ends up being like 5,400. He's going to be just kind of fit him in and opens up a lot of the other stuff, especially with Shane Fraudrin being let go and fired. So I do want to check out his price over on DK because I think it might be a little bit different. 4,800, so it's fair. DJ Moore's another guy who last week I think it starts to open up some of this stuff for Caleb Williams and the Bears. Like, I'm not excited about the Bears offense, and this matchup against the Vikings isn't the greatest by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a lot better than what it was, and for that price point. Just real quick, kind of going off subject here, this week feels like a big week to get your running backs right, and you got to pay up for a couple of them. So this is, like I said, Roma Dunze is going to be one of these wide receivers that I use to try to open up some stuff without sacrificing too much projection here. So as far as the Viking side goes, Justin Jefferson's honestly in a decent spot. He's going to be really overlooked here today. Not as priced up, 8,100 over on DraftKings and then over on FanDuel. He ends up being, give me just a second here, 9,000. I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown is 9,500. Cooper Kupp's 9,200.
Yeah.
A little bit goofy. I'm not saying that's a discount, but him not being the highest priced wide receiver is a little goofy in my eyes. But it's, I'm going to play Odunze. I think I'm going to have a little bit of DJ Moore, but outside of the rest of this, I don't think I'm playing much of it. Maybe I should be worried about that. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I'm definitely in on Dunze. I wrote him up in the article this week. He had 10 targets last week in the first game with Thomas Brown as the OC. So he became like he has the highest target share of the 3 receivers over the last few weeks. So the efficiency isn't really there yet, but if that starts to click, then I think he could really start to boom. So he's a guy I'm definitely interested in. And I like Roschon Johnson as a pay down. DeAndre Swift has been kind of dinged up this week. He was questionable if he was going to play. He missed some practices this week. So it's not a great matchup. Obviously, you don't want to attack the Vikings on the ground. You want to attack them through the air. But at his price, was he 6,100 on FanDuel, 4,600 on DK? Like, if you just get a touchdown from him, he's kind of paying that number off. So I don't mind him at all if you need a pay down option at running back. Now, like I said, pricing is pretty loose this week. You don't necessarily need to find a pay down option. And there's some other ones that I like. just as much or better. But if you need to go down to that spot, I don't mind Roshan Johnson.
Yeah, it seems like Swift's going to play, but Roshan Johnson has gotten goal line work.
Yep.
And I've honestly, before the season, I liked Roshan Johnson. We've seen these spots with DeAndre Swift where he kind of gets phased out throughout the year. And with the new offensive coordinator, this will be his second week for it, maybe. We start to see a little bit more Roshan. Outside of Roshan Johnson, the only other, honestly, like really cheap pay down guys would be Amir Abdullah and Dylan Labe, which that'll be a whole different discussion here in a few minutes.
Yeah.
Um, like I said, Jordan Addison and Sam Darnold. Like Sam Darnold is quietly kind of falling off a cliff last month. I know he kind of looked a little bit better last week, but going up against the Bears defense, I'm not trying to test my luck today with it. I think he's fine, but there's just some other quarterbacks that would rather play. Like I said, I do have one lineup with Justin Jefferson in it just because we haven't seen he's had a really good floor this year, but the alpha ceiling games that we've known to love with him haven't popped off yet. It ends up being, I think, Bears play a really good amount of cover three, and that's what Justin Jefferson
Yeah.
kind of excels against. So I don't want to miss that opportunity there. But like I said, the only other guy we haven't talked about too much is Aaron Jones, who seems to be a little bit banged up, and another guy that just I'd rather play some other running backs today, just to be quite honest.
Yeah, if you are going to attack the Bears, I think you want to do it on the ground. So I think there's a window for Aaron Jones to be a viable play this week.
Yeah.
Last week we talked about the gambler's fallacy of Justin Jefferson's. Like, what's the chances he's going to have 2 bad weeks in a row? Well, he did. So
Right.
what's the chances he's going to have 3 bad weeks in a row? That's up for you to decide. I'm not making that decision for you. So we got a question from CK. Appreciate you checking out the show. Have Kyron Williams, James Conner, Monty Stevenson, and Chubb, Taysom, and Kincaid at tight end. Taysom's off this week, so he's not an option.
Yep.
Oh, so both on bye. Yep. So should I trade Monty or Kyron for McBride, or just pick up Schoonmaker this week? We're going to talk about Schoonmaker in the DFS slot because he is like a min price tight end. I don't know that I want to trade Monty, so yeah, I think I would just pick up Schoonmaker.
I just live for it for the week and pick up Schoonmaker. I know we'll get to it here in a minute, but Dallas passed the hell out of the ball last week. I'm not sure if the volume's totally there, but CeeDee Lamb missed a practice. It seems like he's going to be able to play, but Schoonmaker ends up being like the basically wide receiver 2 over there, and hopefully that he can just cover for you, maybe get a touchdown if you're lucky. But I would not be trading any of those running backs. I would hold pretty steady because should be able to win with them down the stretch. I'd hate to give up one of those guys for 1 week.
Yeah, and it's like, I absolutely love Trey McBride. Don't get me wrong, but I don't necessarily know that I want to trade Montgomery for him, just because, you want to have that kind of stable of running backs down the stretch. And Schoonmaker got 10 targets last week, so he's a perfectly viable play this week. Not elite, but I think he's got some. He's got some upside. Trade Kyron for McBride or Stevenson for Hawk. I would trade Stevenson for Hawkinson if you can do that. But
Yeah, I feel much more comfortable with that one with the other running backs that you have.
yeah, exactly. You've got a good stable, and I love Hawkinson. We probably should talk about him while we're talking about
Yep.
the Vikings. He was my flag plant last week, and that did not work. I'm going back to the well because you can beat this Bears team down the seam. So I do like Hawkinson this week as well. He's not I'm hammering Brock Bowers. We'll get to him, but
Yep.
if I do like Hawkinson quite a bit this week as well.
Yeah, 6K. He ends up in this K. Dotton. Sam Laporta is cheaper than him on FanDuel. Jonnu Smith, and then over on DraftKings, you brought up Brock Bowers. We'll get to him in a minute. Brock Bowers is like the total DK play if you have the money for him this week. But that's
Exactly.
just Hawkinson's 4,200. I think it's fine. Hunter Henry's in this range. I just he's fine. I don't hate it if you want to mix it up. If you're playing honestly some larger field stuff, makes a lot of sense to put in Hawkinson. But I think he's fine. I don't hate it. I'm going elsewhere this week, but it's not a bad play, especially for tight end.
Yeah. In cash, I am 100% Bowers.
Yep.
But if you want to mix it up in tournaments, then I do like Hawkinson as a pay down option. This week, A-Rich or DeVito. I'm not starting DeVito if I have an option like Anthony Richardson. DFS managed doesn't matter. I'm taking A-Rich over DeVito.
Yep. So I'm not taking that gamble with the Italian Stallion. So go A-Rich here for me as well.
Yep, 100%. All right, game number 2 is the Tennessee Titans at the Houston Texans. We have a 40.5 total in this game. Tennessee is a 7.5 point road underdog. So Houston has an implied total of 24, 16.5 implied total for Tennessee. Joe Mixon went off on Monday night. Anything else you're looking at in this game? This game just doesn't kind of jump off the page with all the other games that we have this week.
Not too much, to be quite honest. I be quite frank, I really don't have much on it. I don't. If you want to talk it through real quick, we can. But as far as I'm honestly just going a lot elsewhere this week.
Yeah, I think Nico is interesting in that it's the second game back. He didn't do much on Monday night. They didn't need to, like it was all mixing.
Yeah.
So I definitely want to get some exposure there just because Tennessee can be really hard tough to run on with Tavondre Sweat and Jeffrey Simmons. So I could see this being a Nico game, but yeah, there's nothing I like on the Tennessee side at all. And I think a lot of people are going to go to Mixon, but I don't think this is a great spot for him. There's so I'd much rather go to McCaffrey. I'd rather go to Devon Achane. Uh, I'd rather go to Gibbs. So I'd rather go to Montgomery, honestly. So yeah, I'm kind of fading Mixon this week.
I will say this. I think I saw this while looking through some of the research. Titans haven't given up 100 yards to a wide receiver this year. I probably need to fact check that before spilling the beans. We know Nico Collins has been good. I'd bet him to score a touchdown, but as far as he ends up in this range here, Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, AJ Brown, he's probably not going to get clicked just because you'd rather have AJ Brown all alone at a cheaper price without Devonta Smith.
Right.
And this is FanDuel, of course. I don't hate it as far as like tournament. I just don't think you have to go there this week, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. And over on DraftKings, Malik Neighbors sure is priced pretty high for that situation. But, Mike
Yeah, we're going
Evans.
to talk about him in a bit.
Yeah. So it just, and honestly, CJ Stroud, it's kind of hard. CJ Stroud hasn't been good this year. So you don't really want to play the CJ Stroud double, or at least I don't with Tank Dell. And
Right.
then Joe Mixon is fine, but at the same time, there are some other running backs who are just in awesome spots this week. And I'd rather pay down a little bit, even though, I mean, you look at this game log for Joe Mixon 37, 16, 19, 24. Like, it's a pretty decent matchup, but at the same time, it's kind of hard to stomach fading him, but Devon Achane underneath of him. Both the Lions guys, Kenneth Walker's guy, I love Brian Robinson, James Conner. We'll get into these guys. Just going elsewhere this week, and outside of that, there's really not much here that I'm even entertaining. Calvin Ridley's going to have some ownership because of his price. I've done that. He's saved me a couple weeks. I'm just not doing it here. Houston's
Yeah.
defense against Will Levis just seems like a nightmare.
Yeah, I do like the Texans defense. This is like we talked about pricing being pretty weak or pretty soft this week. So this is a week you're going to be able to pay up for defense. Texans defense will be one that I'm interested in. There's obviously some others that I like more, but I think it's a spot where you could, it's always a good spot to be going against Will Levis with your DFS
Right.
defense. So yeah, I don't mind them at all if you want to play that way. Another question from CK, Laporta or Hawkinson? I'm going Hawkinson. What do you think?
I'm going to go Hawkinson as well. Laporta comes back this week, but I mean, if you drafted him number one tight end this offseason, he has not hit. He's got too many weapons. He's got two running backs in front of him. He's got Jameson Williams, who's been integrated more. Amon Ra, obviously. I'd rather go Hawkinson. I think Hawkinson down the stretch ends up being a pretty big deal. So
Yeah, and no Josh Oliver this week either. So that's just
that
more
helps.
snaps for Hawkinson. Yep.
Yep.
So yeah, and Laporta's just got just way too much competition for touches. We'll talk about them in a minute. Our buddy Gary, the IDP tipster, checking in. Superflex QB2 deep. Minshew, Young, 49ers dude, Brandon Allen, I think.
Yep.
We'll talk about that KC game. I'm going Bryce Young here.
I would say, oh boy. I mean, Young or Minshew, both of them are in bad spots. Honestly, Young has not been bad. and it's probably I'm going to say Bryce Young as well. I don't think we're saying that with any confidence in the world, but Minshew against the Broncos not ideal.
No,
Brandon Allen, I
no.
believe, lit up the Packers like last year, a couple years ago. I don't mean to bring back bad memories if that was the case, but I just
It
don't
was
trust
actually
him
Nick
today.
Mullins, so it's all good.
Nick Mullins, whatever. It's my bad. So I'm thinking of the wrong dude, but uh, yeah, I'm just gonna go Bryce Young as well. He's looked a lot better coming back from his benching or vacation, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, we'll talk about that game in a minute. I think there's some reasons to like the Panthers today. So
Yeah,
I do like Bryce Young of those options. Couple other questions here. You start Mike Evans or Jameson Williams in your flex. Speaking of the Lions, what do you think, Jameson? This is a tough one.
I'm gonna go Mike Evans. He is going to be a part of. I'm not gonna flag plan him, but he's going to be a part of the Tampa stuff that I really like today. Do not care about him coming off injury. He's had like almost a month off. No Chris Godwin. People are going to be scared to play him because of the injury stuff, and maybe they get out to a lead and don't need him. But I think Mike Evans will be a part of that. I'm going to play Mike Evans. Not scared.
I think that's the right call. I am a little bit nervous about him being on a snap count, but yeah, I think that's in a vacuum. I think that's the right call.
I will say this as a life lesson: scared money doesn't make money. So if you are scared to play Mike Evans, just that's on you.
True that.
So
All right, half PPR, Neighbors or McLaurin?
McLaurin for me, he's got a really nice matchup. As long as Cliff Kingsbury moves him around a little bit, uh, I just I think Deron Bland's back, but Trayvon Diggs is out, and this Cowgirls team is just spiraling. So I'm gonna go McLaurin here.
Here's my concern, and we'll get to this in a second when we talk about that game. Like Washington could just run all over and just throw like 7 passes in this game.
They could.
I so I'm very nervous about McLaurin this week. I'll just say that I'm nervous about Neighbors, but I think there may not be any volume for McLaurin, so I'm going to go Neighbors here.
I think it's fair. I just I see this 7, 10, 10, 6, and that was with Danny Dimes, and then I'd rather take the shot on McLaurin.
Sure.
That's me. But if you probably need a floor play, that's honestly Neighbors probably better. I would hope Brian Daboll can like scheme up a screen pass or
Yeah.
something with the Italian stallion, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, we get some more questions. Appreciate that, but we're going to hit our next game, and then we'll get back to the chat. So speaking of that game, the Cowboys and the Commanders, 45-point total in this one. Dallas is a 10.5-point road underdog. They are tied with the Carolina Panthers as the biggest underdog of the week. Washington is a 27.75 implied total. That is the highest of the week, and Dallas has a 17.25 implied total. Like I said, I'm really nervous about the Commanders just running all over Dallas and not having any passing game. How do you think this game plays out?
I think it's a fair point because Brian Robinson's going to be one of my flag plants today. I guess I'll give a little spoiler alert there. I talked about this mid tier of running backs here: Kenneth Walker, Brian Robinson, James Conner, Josh Jacobs, Kareem Hunt. If you're playing on FanDuel, you're going to have to play 3 of them, and you're going to have to get them right. And Brian Robinson's going to be one of those guys, and I think he ends up going a little bit under-owned compared to the rest of the field. I mean, 100 yards, 2 touchdowns, easily in his realm. This Cowboys team is just imploding. So, and we've seen Jaden Daniels. I think he's still hurt from this rib injury from a month ago. Like his fantasy production, I don't know if it's him being hurt. I don't know if it's second half Cliff being figured out, but I don't expect Mike Zimmer to figure out this Commanders offense today. So I at the beginning of the week, I was very in on Schoonmaker, and I don't hate it, but kind of looking through it, I don't think you have to do it as far as a punt tight end. I was using Schoonmaker hoping that he'd get me like 10 points, and he ends up just kind of opening up some stuff. His price over on FanDuel is 4,500. So like if you play him, you play Amir Abdullah or Dylan Lobby, it opens up a lot, but I don't think you have to sacrifice that much projection. I want to check his DraftKings price real quick for shooting 2,500. It's fine. Like I said last week, they had just an absolutely absurd pass rate. I don't think it gets that high, but at the same time, who else do the Cowgirls have to throw the ball to outside of CD Lamb? I just, I think it's fine. I don't hate it. Like I said at the beginning of the week, I was really in on just playing Shoemaker everywhere, but I've kind of come around to I don't have to do it.
Yeah.
And other than that, I'm not going to play any Cowboy stuff. I really like Brian Robinson. If you want to take a chance on Jane Daniels in tournaments, I think it's fair. Noah Brown's honestly one of these punt wide receivers in a really good spot too. But I just like you said, I feel like your worry is warranted. Just they don't have to throw, so why would they? Kind of thing. So we'll see. But I really love Brian Robinson. He's going to be one of my core players this week.
Yeah, I wrote him up in the article this week. He is going to be, I think he's the chalk play of the day. I think he will have the highest rostership of anyone. That's just my guess. I mean, if you look at the running back landscape, kind of big picture this week, it's you've got McCaffrey and HN at the top of your high price guys. And then it's really like Kareem Hunt and Brian Robinson as your tier two guys that I think are going to have like huge ownership.
Yeah.
And I think Eckler's probably going to have, like, I want some exposure to Eckler too, because like we've seen this, you look at this Washington team, go back to like the Arizona game where they had like Eckler score or like Brian Robinson scored and Jeremy McNichols score. I think Eckler missed that game, but they will put like big numbers up in the running game. They will give touches to their secondary and tertiary guys. So I want to have some exposure to Eckler as well. I'm fading Daniels at cost. Like you said, he's not running. I don't think he's going to need to. There's a lot of quarterbacks I like this week, so I don't feel like I need to go to Jaden Daniels. So I'm kind of fading him in best ball and in DFS just because, yeah, I don't think he's going to run. I don't think he's going to need to. I think they're just going to pound the ball with Eckler and Brian Robinson. So that's what puts me kind of off of McLaurin is that, like you said, I'm just worried that there's not going to be volume this week. They're just going to want to protect Jaden Daniels as much as they can. And my defensive start of the week is the Commanders. They're kind of mid-priced. Cooper Rush was just he was so bad on Monday night. He threw for 350 yards, but like that was probably the worst performance by a quarterback who threw for 350 yards in the history of the league. He is really bad. CeeDee Lamb's beat up. I don't know how many snaps they're going to give him today. Remember, they got a Thursday game, so they're not going to want to, like, if they get behind, they could just kind of call off the dogs and just put in their scrubs really quick. So this is a game that I'm afraid just gets completely out of hand. And if so, then this is a Washington defense that I want to have shares of.
Yeah, and just real quick, on DraftKings, I think Brian Robinson will be your chalk running back looking at pricing because he is tiered down compared to some of the other guys. And then on FanDuel, he's going to have some ownership, but he is one of the more expensive backs out of this range without Austin Eckler. So I think you can kind of get away with it more over on FanDuel, not having to worry about like a monster ownership. He's the right play on DraftKings. I'm not talking anybody off of it. It just he ends up outside of this core, he ends up being the cheaper option. Him and Eckler are like right neck and neck as far as being priced. So, speaking of which, Rico Dowdle, I have to play him in some season. I've played him in some season long stuff because every other person on my team has quit on me.
Yep.
That was terrible.
With the bye weeks, like in season long, with the bye weeks, there are spots that I have to start Dowdle. That's absolutely true.
But I've got no interest even in like large field stuff. I just don't think he's going to catch enough stuff to make up for it. So I just not interested. Like I said, Brian Robinson just ends up in a smash spot. I would tell people to bet his touchdown prop, but it is like juice to the gills.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but yeah, that's it's really about it on this game. It's just pretty straightforward and narrow.
Yeah, this is a game that if you have to watch this game, like pay for Red Zone because I don't think this is a game you're going to watch this year.
If you guys sit through this, I'll pray for you. How about that?
Yeah, that's going to be rough. All right, let's hit another question from Dylan Fink. Appreciate you checking out the show. Happy game day indeed. Full PPR. 4 questions, different leagues, 1 flex, upside, Devon Vele, Ikine, Nick Westbrook Ikine, or Schoonmaker. What do you think?
Ikine has caught a touchdown like his last 5 games. He just somehow, like last week, I think it was 1 catch, 400 yards, and a touchdown.
It was just that 98-yard touchdown, yeah.
Yeah, it was just like one big bomb from Levis. God. I'm going to go Schoonmaker here.
I'm going to go Vele because, and we will talk about that game in a little bit. I'm huge on the Denver passing game today. So I will take Vele if you need an upside play. Yeah, like you said, with the Kine, you could probably count on a touchdown, but there's just not enough volume there for him to be in. So if you needed a floor play, I would take Westbrook
Yeah.
Akine, but if you need the upside, I'm going Vele. One quarterback upside, Baker or Kyler?
Honestly, I'm gonna say this. Don't want to come off as hot takey. I love Baker Mayfield today, and I think he can go this nuclear 303 by halftime. So, if you're talking upside, I'm going to go Baker Mayfield here. I know Kyler has the rushing floor, probably has a better game environment, but I'm going to go Baker here.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that, and we'll talk about why. My fear with Kyler is that it just becomes a running game for kind of like McLaurin and Daniels that they just try to run the ball all day, and Kyler doesn't get much action. So, and we saw that a couple weeks ago against the Bears where they had 3 touchdowns and all of them were on the ground. So that's
Yep.
a real concern with Kyler. One running back: Akers, Abdullah, Lauby, Gus Bus, or Mostert.
I think I'm going to lean Abdullah here, and I do not feel comfortable saying that. I've tried to get some info. I've tried to call the Raiders PR team, see if anybody can leak any info. Like they will not let me know anything about these running backs. I'm gonna go Abdullah, but he has not had like a workhorse role since in like 7 years. I mean, it's something egregiously stupid. He's a pass down specialist who has kind of lingered for forever. I think people thought highly of him more than he actually was. And Lobby, like he's played one game, he fumbled, and he hasn't played since, but that's all they got. So I'm just gonna go Abdullah here.
We're going to talk about the Patriots and the Dolphins next. I love that game environment, so I'm starting Mostert just because I think it's the best game environment because I don't like
I
any
think
of those other guys.
I think that's fair. So he would have been my next person. I'm in on that game too, which we'll get here
Yep.
momentarily.
And then one flex: Dobbins, Hopkins, or Dell.
I will go Dobbins here. So the pretty good game environment. I know Baltimore gets beat through the air more than on the ground, but Dobbins has quietly gotten there. Hopkins, I just after his big blow up game, his first week, he's kind of fallen off, and Tank Dell's just been really unreliable. I don't think he's fully back from injury, broken leg, being shot, all the above. So I'm going to go Dobbins here.
Yeah, I agree, and that's a bad matchup for him. But I think in this spot, you like in a flex, you generally want to be starting your running backs unless you have a better wide receiver option. And I don't think Hopkins or Dell is a better option than Dobbins. So I'm going that direction. And let's see, we got another question from CK. Johnny or Hawk, week 12 and rest of the season. That's easily Hawkinson for me. What do you think?
Yeah, Hawkinson as well. I know John has been decent, but be Hawkinson for me.
And then question from Jay Davidson 12. Appreciate you checking out the show. Would you start Jordan Love over Matt Stafford? I'll let you be the objective one first.
I think I would. Matt Stafford going up against the Eagles defense tonight. Eagles defense with Cooper DeJean and the boys, they've been quietly like turned around that defense. Vic Fangio's takes a little bit of time for those defenses to gel, but it seems like they're starting to. I know Cooper Kupp and Puka Nakua are good, and they'll probably get theirs, but I'd rather take a shot on Jordan Love.
Yeah, no Nick Bosa. I think that's a big deal for the 49ers. So, yeah, and Stafford, like you said, that is a real – the Eagles' pass defense has been really good, and we've seen Stafford just have some absolute zero games. So, a little bit nervous about him today, so I will start Jordan Love over Matt Stafford. All right, let's get to our next game, and one that I think you and I both think is going to be pretty fun and much better than the over-under implies, and that is the New England Patriots at the Miami Dolphins. So the over-under in this has gone up to 46. New England is a 7-point road dog. Implied totals of 26.5 for the Dolphins. That is the second highest of the day, and 19.5 for New England. Jameson, last week I need you to ground me here because last week I had the Patriots as my underdog bet of the week. That did not pan out, but I think this game is going to smash the over. What do you think?
I think so as well. And honestly, if there's one last hope for Tyreek to go off, I think it's here. Patriots defense is missing like its entire secondary, or not secondary, like linebacking core, defensive line. Seems like they're all questionable. And Tua last week out there, I played a Tua with Achane and Jonnu Smith. I don't know how in the world I got that right, but I did. And I'm gonna go to it again, but I'm just gonna trade out Jonnu Smith for Tyreek Hill. So it sets up really nice, and I think Drake May he's quietly been really good as far as his rookie campaign goes. Hunter Henry's the obvious bring back, but if you want to talk through Butte or Booty or whatever his name is and Kendrick Bourne, those would be the wide receivers that I would pick from. But I like this environment. A-Chain, I think, is going to go under the radar, like I've talked about earlier. A lot of these other running backs are in great spots, and you got to pay up for A-Chan. But his ceiling here is enormous. I mean, we've seen some 20, 32, 26, 29. I mean, it's a spot for him to get that there. We've seen Tua get there in a vacuum, and when he does, it's pretty easy. The one guy I haven't talked about is Jalen Waddle, who has continuously burned me. I mean, my fingers are just burnt to the bone the amount of times I've hit play on him and have gotten burned. But it's a fun spot. I think this, like you said, this shoots the over. One guy I didn't bring up, Ramondre Stevenson. I think he is pretty interesting as well.
Yeah, I think this game just lines up where both, like you can attack it both ways, like because neither team is really good at putting pressure on the quarterback, and that's what I got wrong about the Rams game with the Patriots last week. Is that the Rams just they put Drake May under pressure constantly, and led to a turnover that and I think that's what kind of cost me the cover for the Patriots. The Dolphins cannot rush the passer, so I think this is a good spot for New England, and I think that in turn kind of keeps this as a good spot for the Dolphins. Like it's a good spot in general, but they're going to have to play up. I think they're going to have to keep scoring. So, like if you think about, like I love HN this week. New England has given up some just monster games on the ground that didn't happen for Kyren Williams last week, just because like Cooper Kupp and Puka both got there. But you think about the Jacksonville game, they gave up a ton of production to the Jacksonville running backs. The Jets game earlier in the year, they gave up a monster game to Breece Hall. So they can be beaten on the ground in a big way. So I love HN this week. Like you said, I like Tyreek. I think they've been really trying to hide Tua and not let him sit in the pocket. But New England can't pressure the passer. So I think this is a spot where they'll be able to get Tyreek in some deep open spots. And you look at what Cooper Kupp did to them last week. And like Cooper Kupp and Tyreek Hill are very stylistically similar receivers. And Kupp just absolutely destroyed this New England pass defense last week. So I think it's a great spot for Tyreek, great spot for HN. I do have a lineup where I've started Tyreek and HN and then brought it back with like Drake May and a couple of pay down guys, like you said, Booty and Kendrick Bourne. You can also go with who am I thinking of? The other, not Tyquan Thornton. He's the one who got cut, but like there's receivers that are super cheap on New England that you can bring back.
Talk about Polk, are you?
Not Polk. The other
no, there's like five of them: Booty, Bourne, Polk, Baker, Kendrick Bourne, Austin Hooper, and obviously we're missing the last one. So shows
Pop Douglas. That's what I'm thinking of. He's super cheap too.
That's on me. That's on me.
It's all good. I forgot it too. So, yeah, you can bring that back. Those guys are super cheap. So, if you love that game environment, and I do, I think that's a fun way to play a tournament lineup.
Yeah. One last thing on this game, Tyreek Hill you're getting the discount. He has not really been good since week 1.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were looking at 15, 10, 10, 10, he's been fine. But like compared to his week 1 of 25 points, his ceiling has not gotten there. Obviously, the hands messing with him a little bit, but I mean, last chance for romance to get a discount on him. You can fit Tua, you can fit Achane, fit Tyreek Hill in there, and not suffocate your lineup like you have in the past, like paying up for top end running back and a wide receiver. So sets up nice, and like I said, I think we're both on that today. So it just works out really well. I'm going to go back to the well on Hunter Henry. I've done that. It's been pretty hot and cold, but I hope he runs hot today.
Yeah, I think that's a perfectly viable bring back. There's other tight ends I like as well. But yeah, I think Hunter Henry is always just a decent option if you want to pay down a tight end. All right, let's move on to our next game. Then we'll hit some more questions. That is the Chiefs and Panthers. So 43-point total in this one. Kansas City, again, 10.5 point favorite on the road, tied with Washington for the biggest favorite of the day. 2 double-digit favorites today. That's kind of crazy. So 26.75 implied total for the Chiefs and 16 and a quarter for Carolina. How you tag? I think I've got a little bit of a different take on this one, but how are you feeling about this game?
I think this is the last chance for people to play Kareem the Dream. It seems like Isaiah Pacheco is going to come back next week. I don't expect him to come out looking good. I mean, you snap your leg in half. I don't expect you to run with immense passion like he has and look like a boulder, but they haven't really played Travis Kelce. D Hop's kind of fallen off. I think Xavier Worthy is honestly kind of in a sneaky fun spot here today, but I just think they're going to run Kareem Hunt into the ground. Panthers have been ran all over, but I do think that the Panthers can kind of put up a fight. If you were on FanDuel and you need salary, Panthers are like 3K as a full punt. I do not think they bury you today. Do I think they get you 10 points? Probably not. But if you need salary, I think I'm not scared of the Chiefs' offense. And maybe after the loss last week to the Bills, they just come out and throttle the Panthers. But I do think Panthers will be able to put up a little bit of a fight. I think it's interesting. Jonathan Brooks makes his NFL debut today. We'll see how much run he gets. Adam Thielen coming back, and I think he's kind of interesting as well. Xavier Liga, greatest rookie of all time in my heart. I think he's in a decent spot, but I don't hate the Panthers. I don't think they're going to get bludgeoned to death. I don't think this game's going to get like out of sorts. But I'm going to play Kareem Hunt. He's going to be one of these mid tier, kind of low higher end tier that I'm going to mix and match and hope that he ends up. Like I said, I think they're going to run him into the ground today.
I think this is a really tough spot for the Chiefs. They're coming off that big loss to the Bills. They're playing back-to-back road games. They've got the Friday game. Remember, they are the Black Friday game, division game against the Raiders. Carolina coming off the bye. I'm not saying Carolina's going to win. I think this is a really tough spot for the Chiefs. So I definitely want to have some Kareem Hunt exposure. Just like they priced him expecting Pacheco to come back, and Pacheco's not playing today. So yeah, he's not priced correctly. So you need to have some exposure. But I think if you want to get contrarian, play the Chiefs passing game and bring it back with Adam Thielen or something like that. Because like I think this is going to be a tougher game than people think. I like Carolina with the 10.5 point spread. I think this is going to be a close game, just because of the situation, right? This is a classic trap game for the Chiefs. So I like the Panthers. I like the Panthers to cover. I don't necessarily think they're going to win. I agree with you. I think it's a good spot for their defense because I don't think they're going to get buried. I do kind of like Kelce this week, probably a little bit more than you do, but I think this is a good spot for the Panthers.
I think, honestly, right now, I think the Chiefs are just going to try to do their best to get to the postseason. I heard some rumblings through the grapevine that Hollywood Brown might be making his return, and they are just hoping that they can get to the postseason, maybe unleash Travis Kelce one last time. But I mean, I haven't played Travis Kelce this year. He has not buried me. If you're paying up that price, I'd rather pay for Brock Bowers at $300 more. McBride,
Yeah.
Nate Otten, who we'll talk about here momentarily. So I think Worthy is kind of in a fun spot. They've given him every chance to break the slate. I mean, Patrick Mahomes and him have not been on the same page, but they have tried to throw the bomb a couple times this year, and all it takes is one with him. Like I said, I think Chiefs win. I do not think they do it in like a very convincing fashion. I think they're just kind of on cruise control until they can get to the postseason. So, and I don't hate your idea of playing like some cheap Panther stuff. It opens up a lot. But my way of playing, I'm just going to play it through Kareem Hunt. He's going to be in my running back player pool. It's probably about 6 or 7 running backs. I'm going to mix and match and hope that I hit on the right 3, especially over on FanDuel. So, but I kind of agree. I think Panthers kind of hang around, kind of gritty team, coming off a bye. I don't think they're the worst team on planet Earth. They're at home, so it just
Yep.
I'm kind of on the same page with you.
Yeah, so I do have a lineup where it kind of runs through the Chiefs. Like I don't like Mahomes is too expensive. Like there's other quarterbacks I like, but I do want to have some exposure to that game just in case it goes like I think you do, and it becomes a passing because it's going to be really contrarian to go with the Chiefs passing game because everybody's going to be on Kareem Hunt. So I do want to kind of play at least one lineup that kind of goes the other direction in this one.
Yeah, I will say this: if you were playing these chalk running backs, the one, if you need to ditch one, honestly, I'd probably ditch Kareem Hunt just because of his lack of upside. Sure, can he fall in the box twice? Sure,
Yep.
is he the only guy left in Kansas City outside of Samaje P. Ryan? Yeah, but there's some other guys that just, catch balls out of the backfield, maybe better offenses overall. Like I said, I'm gonna play Kareem Hunt, but if there's one guy I'm trying to if I need to ditch, say for like Brian Robinson or Achan or any James Conner, like those guys, I'm not afraid to ditch Kareem Hunt. And I say that, and he probably scores 3 touchdowns. But just my thought there.
But I mean, he really needs to, right? He's been really
Yeah,
inefficient. He's become the Kareem Hunt that we expected, before he signed with Kansas City, not the
yeah.
guy who was just dead last year.
He's the
So
best worst running back in the league right now.
pretty much, yeah. He has that touchdown upside playing in this offense, but if you don't get those touchdowns, he's really not a very good player.
No, he's got touchdown these 4 games here. The last 2 games, 6, 13, going up against Denver and Buffalo. But like the Raiders, I mean, I could run on the Raiders, score 12 points. 49ers, New Orleans, when they were like in the depths of hell, barely gets to. I mean, he's gotten 100 yards twice. So, like I said, if he falls in the box twice, it's one thing. But even if he falls in the box twice, I still don't think he buries you. So, I just
Yeah, I mean, if he does that and gets 60 yards rushing, that's not a great game. That's not killing you by any means. So
no,
yeah, I'm comfortable fading him, even though, like I said, he's priced incorrectly, but it's especially in tournaments, I'm completely comfortable fading him.
yeah, I agree there. I think that's fair.
All right, it is almost playoff time. It's Thanksgiving week, so if you need to plan a trip, go do it with Expedia, our partner. You get the best prices when traveling, and we are thrilled with our partnership with them. You need a flight to Denver, you need to rent a car in Miami, you need a hotel in San Francisco. It's not going to be cheap, so you want to get someone to help you out and do that. Go to idpplus.com/Expedia and build the best package to travel to the big game, to your go see grandma on Thanksgiving. Use Expedia. Again, idpplus.com/Expedia, and you can save there on your travel plans. All right, let's hit some more questions here. D-Hop or JMO? Pretty easy JMO for me. What are you thinking?
I would say JMO as well. Just shooting for upside.
Exactly. Jay Davidson, it's all good, my brother. I appreciate the question. No worries about that. Just taking a little bit of bandwidth. That's no hair off our chin. Kicker question: Jake Elliott or Brandon Aubrey?
First off, I hate kickers, but it'd be Jake Elliott for me. So
Yes, I mean, to me, it's Jake Elliott's kicking indoors, so I'm going to take that option, especially at this time of year. Start Kyron Williams or Stevenson today.
I'm gonna go Kyron. I know it's not the best matchup, but just his volume when they're in the goal line, I mean, it ends up being Kyron Williams. I think Stevenson's in a fun matchup, but I would be very sick to sit Kyron Williams and
Yeah,
he gets there. So
yeah, you would have to have like a Christian McCaffrey and Javon Achad ahead of him for me to sit Kyron Williams.
right.
There's just no way that's happening. So let's see. One more from Braden Powell. Appreciate checking out the show. Start two. Cortland Sutton, Aaron Jones, or Malik Neighbors? That's
Oh boy.
tough.
I'm gonna say Cortland Sutton and Aaron Jones for me personally. I think that is the right way to approach it. Cortland Sutton, awesome matchup. We'll get to here in a little bit. He's has a pretty safe floor, I feel like. Aaron Jones has not been the best of all time, but I would hate to sit a running back for Malik Neighbors with an Italian thrown to him. So I'm gonna go Aaron Jones and Sutton here.
Yeah, kind of hard to believe we're saying this after the start that Neighbors got off to, but we've teased this. I love the Denver passing game today. I love Cortland Sutton, and I do like Aaron Jones. I think that's their best option against the Bears, is to try and run the ball. So I agree with you on that one. All right, moving on to our next game here. Couple more games in the early slate. Let's start off with the Bucks. Let's start off talking about Malik Neighbors. We get the Bucks and the Giants. Thomas Cutlets comes off the bench to relieve Daniel Jones. 40.5 point total in this one. Tampa a 5-point road favorite. 22.75 implied total. Giants 17.75 implied total. Early in the week, I wanted to have a lineup that was just based around this game. Now there's just so many questions on the injuries that makes it kind of tough. What do you think? There's a lot to like in this game.
I love this game. We have seen it time and time again. with this Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I think people are going to galaxy brain this. Baker Mayfield has had some just unbelievable games, even in these spots where it could get lopsided. He still gets there. It's him, it's Mike Evans, it's Kate Otten, and it's that easy. You play it through them. 303 touchdowns by the end of the third quarter. You're at the top of the lineup. You can thank me later. I love Baker here today. We have seen these spots with him, and people are scared to play Mike Evans. I'm not. I mean, 27, 31, 23, 31. I mean, this is Baker Mayfield, 29. Like these 30-point games, and Mike Evans with no Chris Godwin. Seems like he's healthy. I know they talk about the snap count stuff. I mean, if they're up 40 points and don't need Mike Evans, I mean, they're probably going to sit him, but I think he's going to play. And I'm not, he can score a touchdown, do the long bomb. Like, I'm not scared to play Mike Evans today. And K. Dotton, we loved playing him 2 weeks ago, but now that Mike Evans back, we're just like, oh, no, we can't do that no more. So I'm going to play this stack. I think it's very simple. And then on the other side of it, if you want to play like Bucky Irving or Rashad White and pair him with Bucks defense, I'm going to roll with a lot of Bucks defense against Cutlets. He took an enormous amount of sacks when he was playing. I believe it was last year. Him and that goofy agent that looks like he came out of the mob, and just I mean, the depths of hell are opening up for this Giants team. It's getting really bad. I mean, Daniel Jones going to get released, but he was playing, box safety on the fourth string. I mean, I don't think this Giants team cares and is just hoping for this season end. If the Bucks come out to a big lead, I think it's Bucky Irving. But we've seen Rashad White get there on touchdowns. He's kind of been the goal line back, and I know people hate to play him, but Rashad White's still gotten there. So I'm gonna mix and match both of those guys, pair them with Bucks defense. But I think this is just kind of like an all out blitz today for the Bucks and Todd Bowles against Cutler Boy.
There's a very interesting group of running backs on FanDuel. Rashad White, 6,900, Bucky Irving, 6,800, Tyrone Tracy, 6,700, and Eckler at 6,600. Yep. I think this is where you're going to have to make a really tough choice. I do like Tracy this week, and I do like Bucky. Like I'm not going to pay more for Rashad White than I am for Bucky. But I like Tracy a lot just because I think there could be a lot of dump off volume for him. It's tough to run against Tampa, absolutely, but I think the dump off volume for Tyrone Tracy is going to be huge. So I do like that as well. I'm nervous about Neighbors just because he's got the groin injury, but he said he's going to play. He says he's been playing with it all year. He's been playing with it since last year, which is kind of bizarre. I would hope you've gotten healthy by then, but so yeah, he's just too expensive for me to get in on this week with the questions around the injury. Here's the thing with Tommy Cutlets. I have a theory called the Colt McCoy theory, in that if you're a crappy backup, you have one good game. You get in the lineup and you have one good game because the other team doesn't take you seriously. And then after that, it just completely goes to crap because, you are who you are. You're Colt McCoy, you're Tommy Cutlets. And, once defenses start taking you seriously, you're not going to go do that again. It happened with Tommy Cutlets last year against the Packers. Now, that was a Joe Barry defense that was completely ill-equipped to deal with literally anything. But he did have like 80 yards rushing. So that is in play. And like Tampa secondary, they're still pretty bad. Like you still want to be able to attack them. You want to be able to I agree with you. I think this is a spot where Tampa's going to put points up, so they're going to have to play from behind. And he is min priced, so there are going to be lineups where you're going to have to beat him, right? So I don't hate that. I don't hate Tommy DeVito starting. I'm not doing it, but I'm saying there is an outcome where he has, he pays off that price. Basically, I would rather start DeVito than Brandon Allen. Let's say that.
I think I'd be the opposite, but at the same time, there's been some desperate times in my life where I've played like these min-priced quarterbacks, and I just don't feel like I need to this week.
No, I'm not doing it. I'm just saying.
No, but it's I don't know. My viewpoint, I'd just rather be tied to Kyle Shanahan than Daboll at this point. But it's like I don't think you need to do it either way. But honestly, like if there was a spot for Tommy Cutlets to just kind of 2 touchdowns, 150 yards, Buck secondary, like you said, has been bad all year. So it's It's there. It's a little goofy. Like I said, I don't think you need to bring back if you would. I'd just shoot for Malik Neighbors upside. I'm not playing Slayton. I'm not playing Wandale. And Tyrone Tracy, probably a better play on DK, where you get the full point PPR for the dump offs that you talked about, compared to
Right.
FanDuel, where you're leaning for touchdowns. So it's like I said, I'm going to be playing this game, and I hope it takes me to the pay window. Just leave it at that.
Yeah, it's just I think it's interesting that you have two min-price quarterbacks this week, and that very rarely happens. But it's happening on a week where pricing is pretty loose, so you don't have to go to those min-price quarterbacks. So
Right.
it's just kind of interesting to see which lineups will be going there. I don't think you need to. I think there's a lot of other guys you can go to that are not expensive. So I'm not going there, but I think some people will. Uh, all right. Final game of the early afternoon window is the Detroit Lions at the Indianapolis Colts. 50-point total in this one. It's our only 50-point total of the afternoon. Tomorrow night's game is 50.5. That is the highest total of the week. Detroit 7-point road favorites, 28.5 implied total. And Indianapolis 21.5 implied total. How do you pick from this Detroit team?
It's tough. I
You can't
gave
play
out
them all.
gave out Jameson Williams last week. That obviously hit. I was
Yep.
kicked myself. I had some technical difficulties. I wanted to play the Jared Goff double. Didn't get it in time. I mean, I would have been able to retire Joel and I if I would have played that. I mean, that was the total nuts. But
Yep.
this week, I say it every week. Gus Bradley sucks. This is an awesome spot, but there's 1,500 people to pick from. I would lean into the running backs this week with Monty and Jahmyr Gibbs. It's really another decent spot for Jared Goff if you want to play there. Sam Laporta is not going to get played. I think it's interesting for probably large field tournaments. I don't think you have to do it for small field stuff. But I mean, they priced up Amon-Ra St. Brown to 9,500 over on FanDuel. That is very rich.
Crazy.
I love Amon-Ra. I think he's great. 8,300. I mean, he ends up being the top wide receiver on both sites. I just a lot of things I can do in life. That one I cannot. And Jameson Williams just ends up in this 6K range. Seems like he always does. He's a great play to get behind this secondary for the Colts, who's played better. If you were playing cash, I think a lot of people are going to show up to the party with Anthony Richardson as their cash game quarterback. It's fine. I don't think he hits for 27. I mean, he's done that twice, and it just I will have one stacked. I think the way to get different this week, if you're playing Anthony Richardson, is playing with a wide receiver instead of just showing up naked with him. Josh Downs has gotten there. I know people think he doesn't, but him, you can get Alec Pierce on the deep ball. Michael Pittman will have some ownership on FanDuel because of his price. I'm going to fade that. Michael Pittman, he's got like a broken back, spinal. I mean, he's just sucked this year. I'm not comfortable playing him. I'd rather play Josh Downs or Alec Pierce. Adonai Mitchell, not getting the full workload yet, but he's been pretty sexy as well. That's the way I'm going to get different. But this game, pace is going to be high. It's really hard to figure out. I'm just going to be honest with you. If you can figure it out, if you got the, let me know the Powerball numbers as well. I'd love to hear them.
Yeah.
Because I don't
Exactly.
know. I don't know how you do it.
All right. There's a lot to talk about in this game. Detroit. I ran some numbers on Detroit. They are averaging over half a point a snap.
Yeah.
Over half a point per snap. That's incredible. It's basically double what their opponents are getting. They are a little bit not as good on they're better at home, but it's not huge. It's like they're still averaging like 0.46 points per snap or something like that on the
Right.
road. So you don't necessarily need to fade them just because they're not at home. Like a lot of that is because of the Dallas game where they were just insanely efficient. But this team just scores a ton. They're the highest scoring team in the league. I'm with you. I can't get there on Amon-Ra this week. Like I agree that Indianapolis' defense is terrible, but the best part of it is like Kenny Moore, their slot corner, and that's who's going to match up with Amon-Ra. So at that price, I can't get there. I would much rather go with Jefferson. I like Nico Collins I'd rather go with Collins this week. The Rams receivers, AJ Brown, it's really tough to get there with their Amon-Ra. Like even in best ball, like this morning, I had to force some lineups with Amon-Ra just because I don't have any. Just because I've been
Yep.
fading him for Gibbs, I've been fading him for Jefferson. It's tough to get there with him. So I'm with you. I like the running backs this week. I like Gibbs and Montgomery. I don't mind Jared Goff as one of my quarterbacks because he's still at a reasonable price. And on the Indy side, I think you're exactly right. I think Richardson is going to be very highly owned in cash, but I don't think he's going to be stacked. So if you want to get different, I think stacking him is the way to do it. And like you can attack this Detroit defense deep. So Pittman is completely out of the question. But I like Pierce is in play. I think Downs is in play. I think I can't get there with Mitchell just because he doesn't have the volume. He just doesn't get enough snaps. But I think stacking Richardson is kind of the way to go.
Yeah, and the one guy we didn't talk about who will go completely under the radar is Jonathan Taylor. I've
Yeah.
I don't ever click on Jonathan Taylor.
No,
It
I don't either.
could happen. It would make sense for him to make that a thing, but I feel like every time I see him, he's having like a really good game and then he's got his ankles taped up. So just like it's just tough for me to get there, but I think he's a pretty good alternative play. Um
Yeah, you're
I'm
getting
always
really contrarian, like because he's only he's $100 more than Brian Robinson, right? And you
yeah.
can't play him on DK because he doesn't catch enough passes. He's not involved in the passing game. And at FanDuel, he's only $100 more than Brian Robinson. So I like why against Detroit, like why would you do that?
Right. And it just if I had to pick, I would pick David Montgomery. If you're picking these running backs, he's the one that ends up in the box twice. But it just they both get there. I mean, at this point you could play both Gibbs and
Yeah, I
Montgomery in a lineup and they like both get there. It's unbelievable.
I have a lineup with both of them with both of them. So yeah, I think they could both absolutely get there.
Yeah. So it just should be a really fun game environment in the dome. So I mean that's what the Lions have played all year, is played indoors, play really fast. But it's really hard. It's a very hard. It's like a 1,000-piece puzzle. It's just very
Exactly.
difficult to figure it out. So
1,000-piece puzzle with no edges, so you don't even
yes,
know where to
yes,
start. I think the big takeaway I have in this game is don't be afraid of the Indianapolis side because I think Richardson and at least one of the receivers can get there. So I think there's going to be a lot of points in this game. All right, let's get to the late slate. 3 games in the late window. We'll start with the only 405 game. That is Denver at Vegas. 41.5 point total in this one. Denver, a 5.5 point road favorite. The Las Vegas Raiders have an 18-point implied total, and Denver has a 23.5 point implied total. I love the Denver passing game this week, Jameson. What are you thinking?
I do as well. And if you try to simulate it, it sims very well. I mean, it opens up a lot. Bo Nix has had these awesome ceiling games. Cortland Sutton is not necessarily a ceiling wide receiver, as far as some guys going to break the slate, but he's definitely gotten there. Going up against this Raiders defense or lack thereof, I mean, it's just been outside of Max Crosby, it's been an abomination. So, I mean, 31 points, 29. He's been running a lot, sets up really well. Bring it back with the best tight end in football, Brock Bowers, who is going to be on record. Should have some more looks than he does for Rookie of the Year, but because he's not a quarterback, he's going to be
Yep.
discriminated against. But he has quietly gotten there. Like I said earlier, I think Brock Bowers is more of a DraftKings play because it's full PPR where he gets these like 11, 12 catch games. And sometimes he catches a touchdown, but kind of hard against the Broncos defense. I don't expect him. He'll have the volume. That's not what I'm saying. But I think he's much more of a priority on DraftKings than FanDuel, where it's much more touchdown dependent. And I think you can get away with some stuff more over on FanDuel. But the other thing we need to walk through is this Raiders running back situation. Both Amir Abdullah and Dylan Labe. I don't even know if you have a choice. I mean, both guys suck, respectfully. And at the beginning of the week, I was going to have some fun trying to jam one of them in to open up some stuff, but pricing has gotten a little looser than it has in past weeks, and I don't think you have to do it. If you play Abdullah, you just hope that he gets in the box. I mean, Abdullah ends up, I believe, on DraftKings, he's 4,300, and then on FanDuel, he's either 4,500 or 5K. He's 5K. So, and Lobby is the rookie from, I believe, New Hampshire, who is basically Danny Woodhead, but just can't run the ball. He's just a pass game specialist. No disrespect to old 39, one of the more underrated small running backs ever, and Danny Woodhead, but he's 4K over on FanDuel. That's min price. And over on DraftKings, he ends up same ballpark. Do you have a preference before we get to the rest of it on these running
Uh,
backs if
my
you had to pick one?
my preference is to ignore them entirely.
Fair enough. Honestly, that's probably the best advice anybody here can listen to. So, but I just want to say I agree with you on this Broncos offense stuff. I think this is an awesome spot for them. Opens up a lot of your other stuff because they're not too expensive. It's not like you're paying top end price for Bo Nix or Cortland Sutton. Running backs are in a decent spot too. We haven't talked about those, but I got fooled playing Audric Estime. The Sean Payton pulled the rug out on me. Gave us Devontae
Yeah,
again. That
just
that
gave the
hurt.
entire fantasy community the middle finger on that one.
Oh yeah, it's times are tough. If you could figure that out, I think that's a really underrated play as well.
So I flag planted Cortland Sutton last week. Am I bitter that Bo Nix threw 4 touchdowns to literally every other player on the team that was not named Cortland Sutton? Yes. Yes, I am. So I think he gets his payback this week. Remember, like, the Raiders are playing with their entire secondary is beat up. Like, Nate Hobbs is out. They've got 2 other guys, 2 other corners. Their slot corner, or Nate Hobbs is their slot corner, but their other starting 2 corners are out. This is a really beat up secondary. It's a bad defense in the first place. So yeah, I love Bo Nix at his price this week. He's a little bit expensive, but he's right there with Baker Mayfield. I'm as comfortable starting Bo Nix as you are starting Baker Mayfield. I think Cortland Sutton gets his payback this week. And then on the other side, I wrote up in the article this week, for me, Brock Bowers, he is approaching peak Travis Kelce territory, where you have to have a good reason to not play him.
Yeah.
He is so good relative to the rest of the position that I need a legitimate reason to not play Brock Bowers. And remember, like, this Denver defense is obviously a very good defense, but it is a tight end funnel defense because their corners are so good. Now, what are they going to do? Break off Patrick Surtain and use him to cover Brock Bowers? That's not going to happen. So this is an absolute tight end funnel defense. So this is I think it's a really underrated, really good spot for Bowers as well. So yeah, it's really tough for me to not have in all my lineups. I think I have one that doesn't have Brock Bowers in, and it's a bad idea to go that heavy on a player, and it's a spot that could certainly burn me. But I think he's earned that Travis Kelce respect, and that he's so good relative to the position. He's not even the most expensive. He's still behind George Kittle, which is kind of crazy. Obviously, they didn't know at the time that Purdy wouldn't be starting, but. Yeah, I'm all over Bowers this week. I'm all over Bowers. I'm all over Bo Nix and Cortland Sutton and the entire. Like, I don't mind paying down for guys like Bailey, and like I'm not going to little Jordan Humphrey, but
no Marvin Mims love this week.
No Marvin Mims love, but yeah, I think Cortland Sutton gets paid back for just like he had a fine get. It was like 7 for 75 or something like that. He didn't have to kill you, but when Marvin Mims and Troy Franklin and little Jordan Humphrey get touchdown passes and Cortland Sutton doesn't, that tends to make you a little bitter.
Yeah, I mean 7 for 78 yards. It was his lowest scoring game the last month, and it was probably his best matchup. So it was like,
yeah, but look at those target totals: 8, 9, 10, 11. I mean, the targets are still there.
Yeah, so it's going right back to the well. He's going to have a little bit of ownership, but at his price, I'm very happy to pay that. But like I said, Brock Bowers, I wish I could get to him on FanDuel. I don't think I'm going to this week. But over on DraftKings, he's like head and shoulders above the field slam dunk play.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, like I said, just before we move on, this game, I think we'll go a little under the radar. I think people might grab a piece, but, it sets up nice and it opens up a lot for you as well.
Yeah, like on FanDuel, if you want to go down to McBride, K. Dotton, Hawkinson, I don't mind. But like I'm not getting too cute with Jonnu Smith, even though he had a great game last week. And this is a good spot, but I'm playing Bauer. Like Miami's a really good defense against the tight end, and Bowers just absolutely demolished them last week. So, like at this point, I think he's matchup proof.
Yeah, seems that way at least.
I mean, there's just no competition for targets there. It's just Jacoby Myers and nothing else. So, and so far, nobody's really been able to stop him. So, all right, the first of our 425 games, 2 of them this week, is one of the best games of the week, and that's the Arizona Cardinals at the Seattle Seahawks. It's a pick 'em and a 47.5 point total. So the second highest total on the afternoon slate of the DK slate. So 23.75 implied total for both teams. A lot to talk about in this game. Where do you want to start?
I think all of my entire financial stability will be riding if this game goes off today or not. So this is where I'm going. I think there's a couple ways to go
I'm
about
in the
it.
same spot.
The Geno doubles is very easy with DK Metcalf and JSN, who's quietly gotten there. I know the Cardinals have a good record. I know offensively they've ranked probably pretty decent. They're really good running the ball. I will give them that. But this Cardinals team overall, I think, is a bit overblown. Defense still sucks. I just feel that way, and they can't get pressure. And Seahawks have given up pressure up the middle the entire year, and they can finally. I think this is a game where Geno can finally breathe a little bit, where he's not getting just hammered constantly with guys running up the middle. He can get there. Kenneth Walker ends up in an awesome spot too. I mean, this is a guy who we've seen break the slate. I'm going to be in on him. And then on the other side, James Conner has gotten there every single week, and he's not getting priced that way. And I'm going to play the Kyler stuff as well. I'm trying to mix and match every single way I can go about it to get there. Kenneth Walker over on FanDuel 8,100, 7,700 for James Conner. Like I talked about earlier, this is the pocket of running backs. You get the Tampa Bay guys in there too. Like you're just trying to find your best couple and hope that they smash. But Kenneth Walker, he's been quiet over the last month. He's had some injury, but we know this 31-point ceiling he's got sets up nice against the Cardinals. Same with James Conner. If you want to play, just get a grab piece. If you want to play Walker and James Conner and then play other games, I think that's fine too. Kyler Murray's been fine this year. He had a big blow up game last week, but I'll play McBride. McBride is probably my preferred bring back if I'm playing the Seahawks stuff. And just like I said, I'm just trying to mix and match any way that I can.
I am with you in that if JSN goes off this week, I'm going to be a very wealthy individual.
Yeah.
I'm heavily invested in him in both DFS and in best ball. Double-digit targets the last two games. That's before and after the bye. That's with DK Metcalf coming back last week against San Francisco. Like Metcalf got 7 targets, I think, and or 9 targets, 7 catches, and JSN still got double-digit targets. So he is still very much involved in the offense, even with DK back. He has basically consigned Tyler Lockett to the dustbin. I think he's done there.
Finally.
Yeah, the passing offense is finally consolidated around JSN and DK Metcalf. JSN is playing like the kind of prospect that those of us who loved him as a prospect, he's playing like what we expected from him. So yeah, I'm very, very invested in him this week against a pretty poor Arizona passing attack. The one place I'm going to go to that's a little bit contrarian, and I wrote this up in the article this week, is my pay down running back this week is Trey Benson. He's gotten 9 and 12 touches the last 2 games before the bye. They're coming out of the bye. This is a guy who couldn't get on the field early in the season because the coaching staff didn't trust him. Now he's getting touches. At his price, he's low 5,000s. If he just gets a touchdown, he's paying that off. And I think this is a game like you want to attack Seattle on the ground. Their pass defense is pretty good. Their run defense is not very good at all. You want to attack them on the ground. So I think Connor's a good play, but I think Benson's going to get some volume in this game as well. And at his price, I'm very interested in him.
Yeah, I think that's a really good call out because they were running DeMarcado, however you say his name.
Yeah,
He was
he's
getting
hurt
some
and
work
he's
in.
not really playing anymore.
Yeah, but I mean, like the beginning of the year, like
Yeah,
as much as James Conner was getting there, he was like quietly getting some touches as well. So you replace that with Trey Benson. I've said this since the beginning of time. These rookie running backs, like the second half of the season, these guys will start to cook, and this is a great spot for Trey Benson. While everybody quietly wrote him off because he didn't look good week 1, his first day on the job in the NFL. Just have some patience. I mean, especially these running backs. We saw Tyrone Tracy. We've seen a lot of these guys second half. They're just starting to kind of find their groove, and I think that's a great call out too because he's obviously gotten some work, and it's a great spot. So there might be a little bit of rain in Seattle. I am not.
that's even
Not really.
better.
Yeah, I don't really get scared of the weather. I mean, I wouldn't even It just is what it is. Unless we got hurricanes and tornadoes, I usually don't let that uh, dictate a whole lot of how I'm going to play the game. But this is, for whatever reason, I think Geno is also a cash game quarterback over on FanDuel, so I'll have a little bit more ownership. But as far as this game, I think this game will somehow stay under owned. I don't know how, because it's probably the best game on the slate, but it's I don't think it's going to get too out of hand.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do think there's going to be. I don't think the ownership in this game is going to match what it should. So yeah, I agree with you. I'm going to be very. I already am very heavily invested in this game. So all right. Uh, Question from Sports Spotlight: Any good underdog picks? Uh, I think the receivers I'm very the late receivers I'm heavily invested in this week are, as we mentioned, JSN and Cortland Sutton. Um, Besides the obvious picks, like Brian Robinson, you can get like early in the week. Brian Robinson was like a 5th-round pick in best ball. That was before the Monday night game and before Joe Mixon just absolutely demolished Dallas. So you can still get him kind of late. You can get Neighbors really late right now. You can get him in the 6th round with the injury concerns. Mike Evans still goes later. Sometimes he goes early. Sometimes he goes later than he should. Just again because of the injury with him. So I do like him. And then I'm like I said, I'm going to Bowers in best ball. I'm forcing him at if I have an early pick, I'm forcing Bowers in the second. So I just think he is like if Kelsey doesn't get there, it's really tough to see another tight end that tops Bowers this week.
I think that's fair. That is your forte, so I'm leaving that one to you there. So the
Yeah,
only person,
the one place I'm not going to is Jaden Daniels because he's the highest pick quarterback by far, and I'm like I said, I don't think they're going to need him, so I don't think they're going to force him. So yeah, I do not like him at his pick value.
yeah. So I think that's fair. I think good stuff there.
Yeah, so appreciate the question there. And then one more game in the late afternoon window. That is the game of the day of the afternoon. The San Francisco 49ers traveling to Green Bay. This line has shifted quite a bit, obviously. 44.5 point total. The Niners have gone from a 2-point underdog to a 5.5 point underdog without Brock Purdy. So Green Bay implied total of 25, San Francisco implied total of 19.5. This game's all about the injuries. No Brock Purdy, no Nick Bosa, no Jair Alexander, no Adrian Cooper for Green Bay. So yeah, I think this game could kind of smash the over even with the backup quarterback in San Francisco. What are you thinking?
Yeah. I'm just checking real quick. I believe Trent Williams is out as well, or at least he was.
I know he's questionable. I don't know if we've heard for
Is
sure, but
well,
yeah.
if he's out, I mean, he ends up being the engine of this 49ers offense quietly, and I think it can go off the rails. I mean, like you said, Big Cock Brock Purdy is sore. He's going to be out. Seems like he's going to be coming back next week, but it's a great spot for Josh Jacobs and for the Packers defense, who ends up being like middle of the road 4K over
Yep.
on FanDuel. Um, I'm not going to play any Jordan Love stuff this week, but it's a great like leverage spot off some of this Josh Jacobs ownership, where we've seen Jordan Love just kind of go nuclear and don't know who to play, but like Romeo Dobbs ends up being really cheap. Jane Reed, a little expensive. I know he hasn't gotten there in a while, but I mean, it just really depends on how long the 49ers can keep around. My play, I'm going to play Josh Jacobs into ownership. Really good spot. And I think a lot of people just don't, myself included, for a long time, I just never played Josh Jacobs. Like I was a guy who got burned by him. Not necessarily the sexiest pick in the world. I just always rather go elsewhere, but it's hard to ignore, especially with no Nick Bosa. And I don't think 49ers can keep up. So I'm going to play Josh Jacobs. I'm going to correlate him with Packers defense, mix him in with the Buccaneers defense as well. And that's kind of one of my cores. Like I said, this mid-tier running back, is one of those guys that I'm going to mix match and hope it hits.
Yeah, Trent Williams being out would absolutely change things. I think that would be an issue for Christian McCaffrey. If people are rostering McCaffrey, and he's going to have very high ownership this week, especially
Yeah.
without Purdy. I think most people are going to expect him to get 30 touches. If Trent Williams is out, that really kind of dings his value quite a bit. So we'll have to check that out. We'll see what the inactives for that game will come out about 3:00. Eastern. So that's going to be very interesting. I do like the Packers defense, like you said. I think they are as far down as I will go if I want to pay down. Like I'm paying up for the Commanders, but if I need to pay down for a defense, that's about as far down as I will go at 4K. I do like Jaden Reed this week. We've talked about him being better against zone coverage. The 49ers play a lot of quarters instead of cover three. And I think the last several games Packers have played against heavy zone defense has been cover three. If you look at Jaden Reed's big games, like against Philly, against Minnesota, those are teams that play heavy quarters, just like the 49ers do. So I think this could be a smash spot for him. I think it's a good, like, I agree with what you said about Jordan Love. He's like, on FanDuel, he's priced down this week, right? And then on DK, he's priced up, I think, or I wanted
FanDuel.
I may have that
FanDuel.
backwards.
He is
Yeah, he's way
7,300.
down
I
on
mean,
FanDuel.
that's a
Yeah, that's
little bit
crazy.
ignorant, but over on DraftKings, he ends up kind of sitting up here at the
I think he's like the
third
highest.
highest.
Yeah. See, I'm not paying up on DK, but on FanDuel, I like it just because there's no Nick Bosa, and that's a big deal. Like the 49ers don't blitz a lot. So I think that's good for Love, and I don't know that they're going to be able if they can't put pressure on him without Bosa, and he's been a Packer killer over the years. That's a big deal. So I do like Jordan Love some this week, and I do like Jaden Reed quite a bit because I think this matchup really suits him.
Yeah, Tucker Kraft's kind of like a roulette pick for probably large field stuff. You'd probably attach him to a Jordan Love stack, but the only other thing I have, it's not on this game. If you are a betting person, the Rams to win the NFC West are like plus 550 is hanging out there. I think a lot of people still believe in this 49ers team, and I think that's really good value. So if you are a betting person, a little longer than I think it probably should be. I think this 49ers team's about to fall off the rails. Cardinals, I know they've won a little bit, but I just think this Rams team, who we'll talk about here in a second, starting to get healthy going down the stretch. I think plus 550 is a little long, and I think it's worth a sprinkle.
Yeah, they do have the toughest schedule of the teams in the West going down the stretch, but I think I kind of like Arizona, and I kind of want to bet them. If I'm going to make a bet, I want to do it before the Seattle game because if they win in Seattle, their odds are going to they'll probably be the heavy favorite to win the division. So if you want to bet the Cardinals, you probably need to do it before that game starts because if they win that game, their odds are going to drop quite a bit.
Yep. Amen to that. So,
all right, one more game for the FanDuel slate, and maybe the best game of the day, honestly, is the Philadelphia Eagles going to Los Angeles, going to SoFi, playing indoors. This game's a 49-point total. The Eagles are 3-point road favorites, so implied totals of 26 for Philadelphia and 23 for the Rams. That's nice and tidy. Tough to not play A.J. Brown in this one. What are you thinking?
yeah, Devontae Smith's out. A.J. Brown being my cash lineup over on FanDuel. So this game ends up being kind of fun. It's 8,500 for A.J. Brown. Even though the Eagles have not needed him, I mean, they are running at an absurd rate. I believe Jalen Hurts has had a rushing touchdown his last 5 games. Talk about Saquon Barkley, 10K over on FanDuel. I mean, that is prime.
Crazy.
Christian McCaffrey used to do this and kind of pay off almost.
He's 5K more than McCaffrey.
I've
For
done a lot of
500.
stuff I've done a lot of stuff in my life. I cannot pay 10K for Saquon Barkley. So it's just 35, 8, 34, 28. Like, even at 28 points, I don't think it really pays off. I mean, you'd have to get 35 plus. So
You got to get 30 on FanDuel at least.
yeah. 9,300 for Jalen Hurts, much more palatable. 30, 29, 35. Not as high as the ceiling last year, but I will have Jalen Hurts line up with A.J. Brown, bring it back with, I believe Puka Nacua is in a decent spot, even though the Eagles secondary, just the way that the Rams have used Puka Nacua, I think Sean McVay will scheme him enough touches to where he can pay off. Not saying like the matchup's great by any stretch of the imagination. Cooper Kupp is more expensive than Puka Nacua. I think that's a little goofy, but that's after the big game last week from Cooper Kupp off the blown coverage. He ends up getting 28 points. Puka Nacua, 24. But Puka Nacua each week, I mean, looks like he is in a hardcore match and just getting beaten to oblivion. He was hurting the touchdown last week. It just gets hurt every week, but this dude's a trooper, and that would be my bring back here.
Yeah, I can't get there with Barkley. I just being $500 more than McCaffrey is just absolutely insane.
Yep.
So can't do it. Even though he probably has the highest likelihood. Like I still think the Eagles are going to try and attack this game through the air, just because the Rams secondary is the weak spot of their defense. So I don't think it's going to be a huge game for Barkley on the ground. So yeah, I can't pay that. I agree with you on Puka. He's just I think he's matchup proof, and just being cheaper than Cooper Cup. That's where I would lean between those two. Can't get there on the tight ends. Whatever, Davis Allen or Colby Parkinson or whatever. No interest. And then Kyron is
Eh.
he with so many other running back options. It's tough to pay for Kyron this week just because of the matchup.
Just don't think you have to do it, and I hope that the Rams kind of have to come back from behind, and I just rather play the pass catchers here. Just think there's some better spots, and Kyron Williams against Jalen Carter, who's quietly kind of turned up the last couple weeks in the gang for the
Yeah,
Eagles. So
exactly. All right, that's it for the slate. It's time for flag plants. Jameson, what's your first?
this specifically probably more for FanDuel. I played on DraftKings too, but Brian Robinson out of these mid-tier running backs, I think this guy is the one that kind of smashes here. Like I said, over on FanDuel, you got Walker, you got James Conner, you got Jacobs, you got Kareem Hunt. I think Brian Robinson over on FanDuel goes underlooked. I think more people played Kareem the Dream, Josh Jacobs, and I think Brian Robinson, 100 yards, 2 touchdowns today. That's where I'm going to go with it. I think he's a great play on DraftKings too, but you're just going to play a little more ownership there.
I think he will go down. I think he will be the highest rostered running back of the week. But yeah, so I agree with that 100%. My first is the one you had last week, and he got there, is Devon Achane.
Yep,
Uh,
great
he's
spot
just
there.
getting so much volume. I think he's getting over half the running back touches, and he's got like a 12% target share in the passing game. He is basically Devon Achane and Jalen Waddle all poured into one player. And like we said earlier, this New England team has absolutely given up some monster games to running back. So I think this is an absolutely great smash spot for Devon Achane. I'm fitting him in every lineup possible.
Great call. And I think he's one of these running backs who's got the great ceiling, but like I said, just going to go a little under owned this week.
Yep.
So my last one is the holiday season. Everybody starts getting their baking done. I'm going to bake with Baker Mayfield. I think he is just
Right on. Right on.
awesome spot. Mike Evans too. I'm not afraid to play this, and I just think it ends up. We see these spots. I brought it up earlier where people will overthink it. Oh, Giants might not have to fight back. I don't think they have to fight back. I think Baker Mayfield can do 303 before, kind of like Jared Goff last week. It was like Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery scored, and they were already blowing the brakes off the Jaguars, and then Jared Goff went nuclear. So I'm not worried about it. I want to play Baker Mayfield. I think he's going to go under-owned. I think people are scared and want to wait a week and do the wait and see stuff. I do not have the patience to wait. I think Baker Mayfield is the play today.
Right on. I agree with that. I like that call quite a bit. And I think I'm going to take your advice and I'm going to build a Baker stack. Probably on DK, but yeah, I think I want to build one. My second flag plant is the one we just talked about. That's Jackson Smith and Jigba. Like I said, the target share is awesome, and it stayed awesome. I saw all I needed to see last week when he got double-digit targets, even with DK Metcalf back. So he's still very affordable in that price range. He's not, he hasn't jumped up to the Jefferson AJ Brown range. So with that target share, if he gets if he scores a touchdown, he's basically smashing the slate. So
Yep.
Jackson Smith and Jigba is my second flag plant. All right, that is it for the day. Thanks to everyone for checking us out. Jameson, before we go, tell everyone where they can find us, where they can find you, and what you got going on.
Got here every Sunday, Rider Dynasty show every Thursday. We'll be off this week for Thanksgiving. Over on the Twitter machine at Jameson Rules, at Jameson Hutchison over on the Blue Sky app. Kind of leaning into that a little bit too, but other than that, that's all I got. So
Yeah, if you want to talk wrestling and specifically AEW wrestling, you can talk to both Jameson
yep.
and I on the Twitter and on the Blue Sky. I am at the Joel Worth on both. You can check out my top plays DFS article on the site at IDP Plus this week. And if you want to get a subscription to IDP Plus, you can go to idpplus.com/membership and get 20% off site-wide with the promo code PROPS. That's PROPS. You can get all our data, all our tools, all our IDP articles, and the subscriber Discord that Jameson is a big part of. So once again, that's idpplus.com/membership, and the promo code is PROPS. Season-long playoffs are coming up. We're 3 weeks away from the playoffs starting, so it's Thanksgiving week already. So check that out if you want to get all that awesome stuff, especially the IDP stuff. There's so much cool stuff, so much, like your partner on the Writer Dynasty show, Joe Harlow, has awesome articles that come out every week and so much cool stuff. So once again, appreciate everyone for checking out the show. You can find us every week on Sunday morning, checking out Doing DFS live, and subscribe, like, so much cool stuff here at the IDP Plus and IDP Bets Network. So give us a thumbs up, like, subscribe. Thanksgiving week, we get a fun week next week. No bye weeks next week, but we'll have a lot of fun. Here's to everyone making some money in week 12, and we will see you next week.
Thank you for watching the IDP Plus YouTube network. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Be sure to tap the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload new content.